Hey everybody! So I wanted to go over, since I already did the other two houses that have affinity to the water sign, with the water signs, the 8th and the 12th, I figured that I would do the 4th. Go ahead and do the 4th house. And if you use, I'll start with the IC. If you use Placidus, this will be the cusp of the 4th house. If you use whole signs, the IC can fall anywhere from like the 3rd to the 5th house. The IC is the lowest point in the chart, which makes it the most personal, the most private place in your chart. So this is like where the core of you is, essentially. The you with all the makeup stripped off and the world not watching. That's the IC. And since it deals with the idea of 4th house things, regardless if it falls in the 4th house or not, deals with 4th house themes like family and home, right? Okay, so if you use whole signs and let's say your IC falls in the 5th house rather than the 4th, that could show that the core of you was created from things outside of your biological family, the nuclear family, perhaps, just for instance. That of course might not be universal, but that's one way that you would go with that, that you could go with that. So then in looking at that, the 4th house is the private spheres of life. It's the private domains of life, home, family, roots. So you can think of the 4th house as like the roots of a tree, and then the other houses, right? They're like other branches, right? And then the trunk goes all the way up to the midheaven. That's like the top. So this really is a very personal place. It's like it's just it's a very deeply personal house, and I find it's important to look at where the ruler of the 4th house falls. And if you use whole signs, look at where the ruler of the IC falls in your chart, the planetary ruler. Like let's say you had your IC 4th house cusp in Libra. You'd want to look where Venus falls in your chart, because that'll give you an idea as to what house the IC bends to, and it helps to kind of flesh that out further, which is important. So this house also, this house tends to show things like, it obviously shows things like feelings towards family and home, the notions that you have of those. It shows things like your home country, your feelings towards your home country. That can also be found here. So also there is, okay, so I see people on Facebook and other forums and things like that. I haven't really seen, well, no, I take that back. I have seen this once in our subreddit, but not very often. But this idea of what you look like, right? And being able to see that in the natal chart. And it's usually thought of as strictly an ascendant thing, in any planets conjunct the ascendant, and That is true. I do think that there is absolutely something to that. I'm not saying there's not. But I feel like the fourth house plays a role in this. I mean, the fourth house is, if it's your roots, if it's your you know, if it's your family, genetics also are here as well. And a lot of what we look like is genetic. You know, barring, you know, surgery and things like that to change what we look like, a lot of that is genetic. Now, we can wear makeup, or we can dress ourselves a certain way, or whatever, but a good part of what we look like is kind of is determined by genetics. Naturally what we look like. So I do think there is a case to be made for this house showing that at least a little bit, what we look like. I would certainly look at this house and the first house, the ascendant, for this kind of thing. I feel like this does get left out of that equation, and it shouldn't. And again, when I talk about genetics, I'm not talking about the sort of generational inheritance stuff I was talking about with the 8. This is like strictly genetic makeup. I feel like does fall here in the 4th. I feel like it probably would. Let's see. Okay. This is also the house of like nurturing and things of that nature. Like Ceres is another one that has to do with, it's an asteroid, has to do with nurturing as well. But as far as the houses go, this is very much like the house where that deals with nurturing. So that's here. Then there's also the notion of the cradle to the grave. So there, you know, as I was mentioning in the video about the other videos, this house tends to show not like during birth, but, you know, young childhood, early childhood sort of thing. When you're very, very young, it can also show the end of life. Or there are theories that it can show the end of life. Not trying to be scary or anything, but I have found in some work that I've done, well, not more like hobby work, but and this is not universal, but with death transits, the 4th house, or the ruler of the 4th house, or something in the 4th house is usually lit up by something else transit-wise. Again, it's not universal, but I have seen it a lot. So I feel like the term cradle to grave is actually pretty fitting here. The beginning and the end. Let me see, did I miss anything else? Oh, and then yeah, this goes back to the core, but the idea of this house being the actualized and individualized self, which again is, you know, the you that you know you are. You may not show this you to everybody, anybody and everybody, but you know it. You know, this is opposite the 10th house. It's, if you use Placidus, it's the IC is the 4th house cusp is opposite the midheaven, right? Midheaven is what we like aspire to be, right? The best version of ourselves in public. So this is the opposite end. This is who we are when nobody else is watching. But it's a very conscious house. out of the three houses that have affinity for water signs, this is the most conscious of them. This is like the most conscious part of your core. So yeah, I think I hit on everything that I wanted to hit on. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you all later.